that leads me to my next question. I want to know, what was your defense theory and how did you go about building that theory?
So when it comes to the theory in this case, after we found the picture, it was literally a picture on a cell phone. It was all the info was my client's cell phone, but it was a man's hand, and he was holding a foil sheet where, if your viewers don't know, what they do is they put a fake Percocet pill on a foil. They have a lighter underneath that basically slowly melts it, and then they inhale the smoke. And sometimes the residue, as the pill is melting, will come in either globs or chunks or just kind of slime. And there was residue that sat on the thumbnail of the father. And so the baby is 8 months old, teething. And so our theory was that what he says at the hospital, I played with the child this morning, and that's the last time he saw her, because my client woke up at 2 p.m. Knew that he wasn't at work, so he kind of had the morning shift, but that was all she knew. I had to assume that it must have been him, and there was a bunch of statements about, him saying, "Hey, you should Narcan her." And mom was like, "Why the hell would I need to Narcan her?" Because she was like, "I never had fentanyl near with the bottles. I never had fentanyl when the bottles were being made. I always washed my hands. Always didn't wash his hands twice because he was always just out on Xanax and fentanyl and everything." Though when it came to the defenses, it was really getting the thumbnail picture to highlight or to line up with the toxicology, the autopsy report, our review, or our independent medical examiner expert in the timeline with toxicology results to show that the child actually processed or metabolized some of that fentanyl, with some of the fentanyl and the antibodies, not the antibodies, but the components were found in her urine. So she had processed it. It wasn't an instantaneous death. And so we had to line up all the scientific data, the statements of the parties and everything to recreate that morning to show that our client was not the one that was actually, the analogy we used was like bringing drugs in the home is like loading the gun, but who pulled the trigger? And our argument was that the dad pulled the trigger. And so our defense was to see if we can get that to either a not guilty or a lesser charge. And that's to show a different mens rea of reckless versus intentional or knowingly, because they charge her by intentionally or knowingly by omission, exposing the child to fentanyl, which caused her death. And so it was an omission, but the state didn't have to prove exactly what their omission was, which created more difficulty for her. We had to show as much clarity as possible that dad was the one that had that final contact. And so we really had an uphill battle on our hands on the guilt and innocence